This is Alan Karpick. This is Alan Karpick. Yes, it is. Our Golden Black Saturday simulcast, August 1st. Now, since whatever date this all started in March, the last 4 months have seemed like 40 months to many of you and to us as well. But we've made it to August, and we are still continuing our series of position drafts of our Purdue football players dating back to 1970, so a 50-year span. Tom is barely old enough to have seen these. He didn't start going to games in 1970. I started going to games in 1966 in the first grade, but there are some great names on this, and we've got tight ends today. We're each going to pick two. I will be at the first pick this week, and we'll talk about that position, which has been a pretty good one with Purdue over the years. Yes. And it'll be interesting to see who gets picked first. I want to thank our sponsors first and foremost: Purdue Federal Credit Union, 6th Street Dive and East End Grill, serving in the Lafayette area, downtown Lafayette area, of course. First Source Bank, Follett's Purdue Bookstores, Charters Team Remax Ability Plus. We're grateful for their support, and Kyle does some great work, has done great work with Golden Black all the way back to 2004, but now he's kind of a freelance guy, but helps us with our Golden Black radio on Mondays. And then, of course, Home Field Apparel. And if you haven't gotten your Knucklehead t-shirt or you haven't gotten your Golden Black merchandise, it does. Proceeds are going to the Purdue Center for Cancer Research. We'll have more information on our site about how you can order those as well. If you're a Golden Black subscriber, you can go to the Knucklehead board. We have a tile up there or a link for you to do just that. So, Tom, tight ends today. We're down to the last two positions on the field. Yeah. We've done special teams. We've done defensive backs. We've done linebackers, defensive line, offensive line last week, running backs, receivers, and we will do quarterbacks next week. But we have our tight ends this week by position. And I am going to take my first pick. This is a tough one because you've got kind of a tale of two guys that were really, well, actually there are three that I really have given a lot of thought to. Productivity versus how good they were in the NFL, to all those things come into play. I think it's still hard for me, and this is, boy, it's a tough call in my pick. Hard for me in terms of pure ability at the tight end position to go away from Dave Young. Yep. And I know who you're going to pick. Probably is your other one, and that would make good sense. But Dave Young, an All-American, 1980, had some amazingly productive numbers from Akron, Ohio, a big recruit for Jim Young and company to get a commitment out of the same class of Mark Herman to get those two to combine together. Big number 80, a lumbering tight end that could stretch the field. He had a couple 80-yard touchdown receptions in his career. I can remember one against Wisconsin in that infamous tie game in 1978. But he was extremely productive, a first-team All-American in 1980, drafted in the first round, I believe. Second round was at the New York Giants. Yep. Did not have a productive career. He's had a tough personal life after football. But when he was in West Lafayette, Dave Young was about it. And he looked the part. Just your prototypical tight end that could run. I don't know. I'd have to ask Jim Young, and he probably would say maybe off the record how good a blocker he was, but he was a very, very good receiver, extremely productive in a lot of ways, and he is my first pick at tight end. He and Mark Herman were just phenomenal together, especially in that 1980 season. But to be very honest, they were good. Young did not play as much as a freshman. He did play. But he did get a lot more time his sophomore through senior year, and was very, very productive as a tight end, obviously, for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, I tell you, as an impressionable middle schooler watching those late 70s teams, number 80 stood out, Alan. I think you encapsulated all he meant to those squads very well. Just some quick numbers before I make my pick for Dave Young. Allen, 180 career catches, number 2 all time among Big Ten tight ends. But Allen, his yardage total, 2,316 yards, is still number 1 among all Purdue tight ends. How about that?
Yeah.
40 years later, no tight end has caught passes for more yards than Dave Young.
Yeah.
And like you said, he was dropped from the football gods to play tight end with that physique. And what an offense, right? To play with Mark Herman and catch all those passes. So great choice. I love Dave Young. I wish him the best. But yeah, Alan, I mean, if not Dave Young, my pick's got to be Tim Stratton, right? You know, I know you maybe think I'm going with Dustin Keller. I get it. Of course, I'm just going basing what Stratton did while in West Lafayette, Alan.
Hard to minimize.
Really unparalleled. I mean, as great as Dave Young was, and he was great, Alan, Tim Stratton was the only 3-time first-team All-Big Ten choice in the history of Purdue football, I believe. No other football player has ever been first-team All-Big Ten 3 years. Tim Stratton was 3 years. Tim Stratton won the John Mackey Award as the nation's top tight end. Again, I know Drew Brees won the Davey O'Brien Award, but you know, and Travis Dorsch won his award with the Ray Guy. But Tim Stratton, of course, takes home the Mackey. I think it was the very first Mackey Award ever handed out as well. And yes, he wasn't a pro. He wasn't even drafted. Didn't play one snap of professional football. But I tell you what, man, you watch number 89 as I did, Alan. Terrific athlete, ultra productive, Alan. 204 catches during his career. And the stories we could tell about Tim Stratton are endless as well. Great character, great person. I've kind of gotten to know Tim a little bit over the years too. And I remember, I'll never forget, Alan, he was part of Joe Tiller's first recruiting class.
Right.
He was a big-time volleyball player in the Chicago area. And Tim's a great guy. And again, I tell you what, yeah, he wasn't a pro, but Purdue's had few more impactful football players than Tim Stratton.
Yeah, that's hard to argue. And a guy that, you know, we the famous helmet incident after the Michigan game, and when he couldn't find it, got his helmet stolen from him in 2000, or who knows with Tim, whether it was stolen, I think it was stolen, and he got it back in time to play in the Northwestern game, a huge game the following week. Tim was just bigger than life. And, you know, how many guys used to play catch with the crowd? You know, he'd wing the ball. I can remember, I think even at the Rose Bowl, he was doing it. And he'd hope to get that football back. He is one of the great personalities to ever play. The late Joe Tiller, he drove him nuts.
Yeah, he did.
But I was at Joe Tiller's funeral, and Tim Stratton gave an extremely emotional speech. Eulogy, one of the many players that talked about that relationship. I think those two understood each other, and Tim has done a lot with youth since. I know he's been involved with coaching, and just had the greatest hands. I mean, I know he didn't block, and Joe Tiller used to lament the fact the guy didn't block at all, and he was.
Who cares when you catch like that?
What?
You catch like that, who cares if you don't block?
And I think that is true. Maybe that's true, but Drew Brees liked Tim Stratton because they were dang productive together. And to win the Mackey Award, you know, Purdue has not had many guys, like you said, that have won national position awards. And this is a guy that certainly holds up to that group. And you're right, the fact that he was a first-team All-Big Ten 99 through 2001, which was interesting because I know his production went down a little bit in 2001 with Brandon Hance, but Drew Brees and Tim Stratton, and you always got the point first down when you catch the football. And he was the great guy to get that 8-yard catch for a first down, and Drew Brees fell in love with that from that standpoint. And Tim, a great guy too, just fun guy to be around, and hard to beat from that standpoint. And you're right, I can't pass up Dustin Keller. And to me, you got 3 guys here that just stand above the rest, clearly, and all could be been picked first. But Dustin Keller was a phenomenal athlete. The story's well documented. Number 28 at Purdue. a tight end that didn't, committed to Toledo and got the offer. His mom supposedly drove him across the river. And I can remember Purdue coaches. I can remember Greg Olson, who was the offensive he was quarterback coach and really a guy that was behind that office. I can remember him coming to our office and talking about, boy, we got to offer this guy. And of course, Dustin Keller played with, was it Tim Blaho, George?
Yeah,
Lafayette Jeff. And really was productive, but and he was a receiver. He was more of an outside guy, but he was an inside guy at Purdue, but a guy with unbelievable athleticism and a first-round NFL pick, which the New York Jets loved him and would have had a longer career at a catastrophic knee injury if my memory serves me right. But Dustin Keller was a great basketball player too. He was just a phenomenal athlete. And I know that Purdue waited. I think they thought he was too slow to play the receiver, didn't see him necessarily as a tight end. They got him here, and he made big play after big play. A lot of long touchdown receptions. So, talked about Dave Young having an 80-yarder. I know Dustin had an 80-yarder and had several over 40 in his career. Had a huge touchdown against Ohio State in 2004 to get Purdue to a win over the Buckeyes and Jim Tressel. So just very productive and a great guy also. I keep saying we always have other great guys, but Dustin is a good community member, was back for the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame event here a couple of years ago. Great to see him. And he's been around, obviously, the Lafayette areas. He's a Lafayette Jeff product.
Yeah, he was also a state high jump champion too. He went to the NFL Combine and was a total freak down there.
Yeah,
he tested off the charts. He may still have some Combine tight end records, I think, for various exercises and drills. Just an athlete who was, again, off the charts. One last story too, I think, Alan. The guy who was recruiting him for Toledo was none other than Doug Downing.
Right.
Lafayette Jeff Brad, of course.
Who played at Purdue, obviously, and started in 87.
Joe Tiller and Purdue swiped him away from the Toledo Rockets. And the rest is history. Dustin Keller, 142 career catches, Allen, 1,800 yards. Dave Young, Tim Stratton, Dustin Keller, far and away, statistically, among Purdue tight ends are the top three. Now, this is where things get interesting for me, my friend.
Yeah,
there's two guys that could merit this pick, and I guess I have to go with Bryson Hopkins.
Really,
Big Ten tight end of the year, Alan.
Yeah, good
pick. He was the Big Ten tight end of the year last year.
Yeah,
for 4-18, and Bryson, boy, there's some Dustin Keller in him as far as his athletic ability goes. Maybe not the most physical guy at the point of attack.
Right.
But my goodness, he can catch the ball probably as well as most of the guys we've talked about on this list. Dustin was picked by the Los Angeles Rams, I think 4th or 5th round this year.
Bryson, yep, 4th round, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a steal. Again, has those bloodlines too, those NFL bloodlines. His father, Brad, of course, playing tackle for Illinois and the Tennessee Titans so many years. But yeah, Bryson, we just got to see him, of course, obviously the last, 4 years. He was a Darrell Hazel recruit, redshirted, played 4 years, had to sort of share the role for a while with Cole Herdman. But we saw him come into his own recently. And I tell you what, last year, under some trying circumstances with a lot of turnover quarterback, Bryson still stood out. And again, another good guy from a good family. So, yeah, Bryson Hopkins, give me him to line up next to Tim Stratton. I'll be A-okay.
Yeah, I like Bryson just because of his ability to run. I think he's a guy that can create some real matchup issues. Not an NFL expert by any stretch, but I like him as well. My honorable mentions, and I'll pick one, and you can, and I'll see if you mention another one. Cliff Benson.
Yeah, Cliff Benson's my choice.
Tight end who played a number of years, the Atlanta Falcons, very productive from 81 to 83, I want to say. Played mostly with Scott Campbell. It was one of his big targets. Of course, his son played basketball at Northwestern. But Cliff, a great personality.
I think that was Ted Benson's kid, wasn't it?
What?
I think that was Ted Benson's son.
No. Ted Benson was a
Basketball player. I thought that was Ted
player.
Benson's son.
Ted was almost the same age as Cliff. Ted's last year.
I thought that was Ted Benson's son who played at Northwestern.
Oh, no. I think that's Cliff's son.
It's Cliff's son. Okay.
It's Cliff's son. And Ted played for Lee Rose and obviously for Gene Katie for a couple of years as well. But yeah, no, that's Ted. That's Cliff's son and living from I think from the Chicago area, and a guy that was very, very productive. Also could stretch the field at the tight end position. And the Atlanta Falcons liked him enough to keep him on the roster, and he had an opportunity to play for a few years in the NFL. All right, who's your honorable mention? There's one that's obvious to me, but
Charles Davis, right? You got to go Charles Davis.
Second team All Big Ten, and
he followed Tim Stratton, and was a draft choice of the Steelers. And yeah, Charles was a very good tight end, a very productive tight end. It wasn't elite like the other guys we've talked about, but certainly a very good tight end. One of easily the 10 best, I think, probably Purdue's ever had the last 50 years at least.
Yeah, and a guy that big number 87 looked the part. He reminded me a lot of Dave Young, just in terms of that size and that presence in that position. Also could stretch the field. They like to get him over the middle.
Remember Al, he joined the basketball team one year.
Right, when Purdue was desperate under Gene Katie, who, by the way, just called me here during this recording. I'll return the call to the coach, but anyway, yes, he did play. Very good athlete, and also an effervescent personality, very positive person from that standpoint. I'll throw in a couple other names just because it's fun to talk. Marty Scott, very good tight end. Jim Everett in the mid '80s. Yeah. Very productive in 1984 and 85, I believe. And I should have done my homework. I can't remember where Marty was from.
He's from Michigan, I think.
Okay, and really good tight end. And the other one is, and we were talking about this before. He technically qualifies, but because he played in 70-71, a guy named Ashley Bell. And Ashley Bell in 1969, which doesn't qualify with this, had a huge year with Mike Phipps. Purdue changed its offense a little bit and didn't have Mike Phipps at quarterback in 1970 and 71, and Ashley did not have a big year, but he had a big year as a sophomore in 69. So we'll put an asterisk by Ashley Bell's name. He was a big-time recruit or big-time productivity guy for Mike Phipps and Phipps's All-American season and Heisman Trophy runner-up season of 1969. Anybody else you want to mention?
Kyle Adams.
Yeah, good player. Great
played in the NFL for a little bit. Played in the NFL. Gabe Holmes was another guy, Danny Hope, tight end, who was pretty productive. He's had a cup of coffee in the NFL as well. So Adams and Gabe Holmes were a couple guys that I had on my radar. Yeah, Marty Scott. I forgot about old Marty Scott. Brad Schumacher was the other tight end when I was in college, I remember.
Yeah, right.
Big 6'6", 6'7" guy was a giant. Caught some passes from Jim Everett and company back in the mid-'80s there.
Yeah, I think that certainly Gabe Holmes is a guy that just took him an entire career to kind of live up to his potential. He was so talented. And he just was raw, and he became that way got developed as a player. Certainly, that is an interesting call from that standpoint. And I think he got to. There's some other ones out there, but that's our list of tight ends, and Purdue's had some good ones. Like I said, a first consensus All-American, and I believe Dave Young was a first-team All-American in 1980. Tim Stratton, of course, the Mackey Award winner as well, and Dustin Keller, just a terrific athlete, among others. So,
yeah, I think
any parting shots? Go ahead.
Yeah, their banners are hanging up in the Mollenkoff. Dave Young and Stratton, and I think Dustin Keller may be hanging up in there too. So yeah, Purdue's had a nice little legacy of tight ends here.
All right. Well, we will do next week. We'll have that argument. We'll have some fun talking about quarterback. And I think I know who will be the number one pick, but there's some good ones. And
Mark Vitale.
Is that why you gave me the first pick here this week, by the way? I think that's why you did.
No.
So that you could pick first next week. That might be it. But anyway, it is Purdue's great tradition at that position. And it's funny. It's kind of like arguing LeBron James versus Michael Jordan versus Bill Russell on down the line. These are silly arguments. We're not arguing, but it's hard to compare eras. But all these tight ends mentioned today are well worthy of consideration. I want to thank our sponsors. And of course, that is Purdue Federal Credit Union, Follett's Purdue Bookstores, East End Grill, 6th Street Dive, both restaurants in the Lafayette area going at it and serving folks during this pandemic, but also First Source Bank, Charters Team Remax Ability Plus, Home Field Apparel. And as we always try to do, we want to support our local businesses. We have so many local businesses that have been very much supportive of us here at Gold and Black over the years, but restaurants that are serving, it's certainly a situation where Arnie's, Bruno's have been great to us as well, and folks that have just been really people that have been with us since the get-go. So Arnie's still is serving, and Bruno's doing carry out. And that is a big part of what we're all about at Golden Black. So have a great week, everybody. We will see you on next Saturday, August 8th. And we'll be talking quarterbacks as we break down our final position set in our Golden Black draft. So, Tom, have a good week. Thanks so much.
Take care.
All right.